Parent process ID spoofing, or PPID spoofing, is a method of changing parent of a new process. Okay, so in other words, you're spawning a new process and you want to make it as a child of another process and not yours, right? And why this technique is so important? Because nowadays many EDR products rely on this parent-child relationship. Okay, so imagine you're doing a phishing attack, okay, and your payload gets executed in Excel spreadsheet. Now your payload executes another payload, let's say a PowerShell script, which means that a new PowerShell process will be created as a child of Excel. All right, and such combination, I would say, like, it stinks for miles, right? This is easily spotted by many EDRs because they can clearly see this parent-child relationship. Okay, so if we find a way to spawn the PowerShell as a child of, let's say, Explorer.exe, then this relation is broken and detection will be avoided. Okay, at least on this parent-child level. Now, there are a couple of ways of doing this, but the classic one is actually a built-in functionality of Windows. Yes, there is a legitimate use of such spoofing. And one common example is user account control, or UAC. So when a user wants to run a program with elevated privileges, the application information service, which is running under SVC host, will launch the elevated process with a spoofed parent, so that a new process is appropriately attached to the original caller in a process tree. Okay, let me demonstrate it how it looks like. Okay, so let's start. So let's first find this service. So it's called process information, application information, and this lives in this particular process. Okay, so yeah, it facilitates the running of interactive applications with additional administrative privileges, and if it is stopped, then blah blah blah. Okay, so in other words, if we run anything with elevated privileges, this specific process is kicking into action. All right, so let's actually do that. And what we need to do, let's change highlighting for example for 10 seconds. Okay, so now let's start Notepad as an administrator. So we see this pop up. Okay, we see yes, and this pop-up is actually done by created by consent.exe process, okay, which is a child for our application information service. But the Notepad is actually a child of Explorer, and this is possible because SVC host is spoofing the parent ID of Notepad, pointing it to the Explorer, which was actually the original caller for spawning the Notepad, because I was running launching a Notepad from taskbar. Okay. So how we can use that programmatically? So let's revert that change, and let's go to our code. So we go to Classic, and let's open it in Notepad. And the code is really simple. The way you need to spawn our Notepad, so we are going to spawn a Notepad, but it will be a child of Explorer.exe and not implant, so the original caller. All right. To do that, we call create process as usual to create a new process, but we give it an additional parameter which is called extended startup info present. All right. So this means that create process will use another type of structure which is extended, a type of startup info EX. Okay. And in this structure, we can actually provide, there is an element called attribute list, which allows you to give extra information about the new process. All right. And one of the types of information you can provide here is proc or process thread attribute parent process. Right. So what we're going to do here is we create a new attribute list. Okay. We just reserve some space on a heap, and we get a handle to the explorer.exe. So first we need to get its process ID. All right. Then we open up Explorer to get it to a handle to it, and this handle is then passed to update proc thread attribute function, and this information is then stored in attribute list, which is assigned to our structure, extended startup info structure. Okay. And then the rest is like pretty simple. Okay, so let's compile that. 0.1 compile. Okay, and so let's run it. So we can see that Notepad is actually a child of Explorer, okay, and not the implant itself, right? So the implant ID is this one. This is the ID of Explorer, and Notepad is actually a child of process. So there is no relationship between, like, parent-child relationship between image implant and Notepad. Okay, so this is one of the, I call it classic method for parent process ID spoofing.